Operation Exchange is intended for an adult audience, mature audience. Listener discretion is advised.
Okay, so today we have Heather Cohen, a private investigator, as our guest on the show, and she's done some work in our local area and is kind of known around here. But go ahead, Heather, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hi. Yeah, hi. I'm Heather Cohen. I'm Dyersburg's most hated, I think, by some, and
We love
there's
you.
really no neutral. I don't think anybody's neutral about me. They either love me or they hate me.
We love you around here.
Oh, that's good to know. That's good to know. I mean, I know I mean well. Definitely rubbed some people wrong, but I do mean well. I think there are, just three different types of people in Dyersburg. There are the people who know I'm telling the truth, that know about what's going on, and they are just passionate. They're just 100% behind me on everything I've been trying to do. And then there's the people that know the truth and are benefiting from the way that things are. So they're very passionate also, but they're passionate in a different kind of way, in the shut me up, shut me down kind of way.
That's right.
And then there are just the people that just want to mind their own business and keep their heads low and just
not draw any attention.
That's kind of where I usually stand in the middle.
Yeah.
But I love talking to all kinds of different people, and like when I first, you're from Dyersburg, right?
Me?
Yes,
no,
you're not from Dyersburg. Okay, I thought you came into Dyersburg with guns blazing type thing, and like it caught my attention.
Yeah.
I believe my cousin was the one that told me about your podcast or your show that you were doing at the time, and I started listening to some episodes. I can't remember where I was listening to them at. I had an Apple at the time, so probably it may have been iTunes. I really don't know. I can't remember. But after that, I was like, dude, this girl is on top of her stuff, man. She knows her shit. And I think I reached out to you at some point, and exchanged some crap that I'd heard, But after that, like I've just been adding folks on Facebook, trying to. I have a bad habit of deleting my Facebook every 6 months or so, and taking about a 6 month break, and then so I've been adding folks on Facebook. You popped across. I was like, oh man, there she is. I saw. It'd be kind of cool to get her on the show, and I still can't believe you said yes.
Oh well, I have to ask. Are you a part of the Fords? Are you the Fords?
Nope.
Yeah, I'm the Fords. Really, man, that they would be honored to be related to me.
Okay.
This is the kind of persona. No, I've been asked that my entire life. I'm not related to them. As far as I know, have you ever heard of the name of Willie Ford?
I don't know. I've heard so many names at this point, but I've spoken to. I have spoken to one of the Fords.
John Ford or Mary Courtney Ford. I went to school with a couple of Fords that were around the same age as me. It was John Ford and Mary Courtney Ford.
Okay.
I haven't talked to them in years, like probably seventh grade, something like that.
Yeah, I had one of the Fords that are part of the big family that it's crazy how I really knew nothing about Dyersburg before I got involved in the Karen Swift case.
Yeah.
And I feel like at this point, I feel like I know just about everybody. I feel like I know everything about Dyer County. And it's like, you just hear about the families, that the very prominent and powerful families in that town. And I know the Fords were top of that list.
Yeah. they've been around for a long time. Them and the Forkums and the Lanhams,
Right.
those families have been around for a long time. And
Yep. Yep. No disrespect. I got no reason to hate
no,
on
man.
them.
Hey, I was poor, so no disrespect taken. You can, it's hard to insult me, but no, I didn't never have a problem with any of the ones that I've ever talked to. But Willie Ford is a different set of Fords. It's Jimmy Ford, Freddie Ford, Willie Ford. Now when we were talking about our lineage, and I've got some Ford family that supposedly come from Virginia, and he did too. But Willie was probably closer to my dad's age.
Yeah, he's
But
a character.
yeah, he's a character. He's kind of like me. He's like a flirt, and he's and my wife, Courtney over here, she's like,
How do you feel about that, Courtney?
Yeah,
I'm used to it. He's been that way for 20 years now.
I'm harmless, Heather. I'm harmless.
Yeah.
But I used to work at the Shell station in Dyersburg for years, and Willie would come in there, and I joke with Billy. I'm like, that's my preview. That's what I've got to look forward to when we get older.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
But all my Ford family was from Memphis, and Somerville, and they just kind of I don't have a lot around here. I've got a few Ford family still left in Obion County, but that's about it.
Well, see, whenever I tell people my name, are you related to the Cohens? Are you like Leonard Cohen?
Yeah,
like
Leonard
the
Cohen.
big Cohens? I'm like, I wish I was.
yeah, well, my
I sure
maiden
wish I
name,
was.
my maiden name was Osborne, so I always got are you related to Ozzy? I was like, I'm not rich enough for that.
So we all three have something in common, and that's none of us belong to the proper families.
Our surnames do not match us.
Right.
I think the
Yeah.
Fords that you're referring to, like they used to use the blue oval. Like
Hmm.
I'm not 100% sure, but they may be descendants of Detroit Ford family, like Henry Ford. I don't have a clue though. Like I've always heard that, but I don't know.
Yeah, you know how rumors go.
So you're a private investigator. How did you get started in that, Miss Heather?
Yeah, years ago, I started volunteering for the Q Center for Missing Persons. It's wild how it happened, just this kind of domino effect. And really we could even go back further than that and talk about, how when my mom was killed in a car accident, this is kind of natural instinct to investigate came out of me, and I went and measured the tire tracks in the street, and knocked on doors and found witnesses and all that stuff. And that kind of came from my paralegal background. But, more significantly, I think was when Holly Bobo went missing in 2011, the same year that Karen
I remember that.
went missing. And yeah, it was April. So it was before Karen, but I just, I started having dreams. It started with dreams. I feel like Martin Luther King, because it all started with a dream.
Okay.
And had a dream about Holly Bobo, and just had this fire inside of me. Yeah, just this I just felt this fire inside of me to try to help figure out what happened to her. And then, of course, before we knew that she was dead, but I think in my heart, I knew that from the start. But so I started volunteering in that case, and trying to put the pieces together. And once again, just this kind of natural intuition and instinct to, ask questions, talk to people, follow leads, and do all that. And that's just kind of how it started. And then, I was volunteering for the Q Center for Missing Persons as a Tennessee state coordinator. So I ended up getting involved in several other missing persons cases as well. But Holly Bobo was the one that kind of got it all started, and just that case was my baby.
Okay.
So yeah, that's how it started.
That was a sad case. You know, I remember that.
It really was.
Yeah.
It really was. And I love that family. You know, her mother um, is just a wonderful woman. Her father, you know, I looked at that family and how much her daddy loved her, and just how, you know, just her mother and the grief and the heart, you know, just, and it just, it did something to me, to my heart. And, you know, and I don't have, I don't have a real good relationship with my dad. But just how protective he was of her, and how much, you know, just his love for her, like it just touched my heart, you know, so deeply. So that family, I will love them till the day I die. They are just wonderful people.
Did you get to know them like
I did.
ongoing the investigation, or did you already like priorly know them before? Uh,
No, I got to know them through the investigation. I didn't know anybody, just like Dyersburg, like I didn't know anybody from that town or that area
that's an incredible gift to
until the
have.
case.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I stepped on you, but
No.
that is an
No.
incredible gift. You know, like you can come into town and you can um, start laying roots. You know, like and start meeting people, and you seem very personable, like you don't know a stranger. Like I've
Yeah.
the few times that we've talked, I kind of feel like I've known you for 10 years.
Yeah. I mean, that's it, it's always been that way, you know. I'm sure the people that have gotten my file and listened to my audios and stuff, they're probably just, I've said it before. I'm like, I bet Danny Goodman hears my voice in his sleep
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I don't have short conversations. You know, even when I'm talking to witnesses, so many of these witnesses, like I ended up having close relationships with, and just really, you know, to the point where, you know, they wouldn't just call me about the case, like we would talk about other things as well. Brandy Fagan was one of them. You know, I get really close to people, and I don't know, you know, sometimes, you know, some people might say, well, that's not, you know, that's not professional. I'm just me,
Yeah,
you
you do
know.
do it
I
your
mean,
own way.
I'm just me, you know, and um I'm not really anybody special. I'm not really anything, you know. I don't, I think it's just my ability to connect with people, um and just talk to them. You know, it doesn't matter to me, you know, what their past is like. I'm not judgmental. Um, you know, yes, I'm trying to solve a case, but I'm also, you know, there for you as a person, there for you as a friend, there, you know, and I'll pray with you. I'll, you know, listen to you cry. I'll try to talk to you. I'll try to give you some sound advice, you know, all that stuff. So I just develop relationships with these people, and on some level, I guess they come to trust me, and I'll stand up for them. You know, I think you've probably seen that too. Like when they're threatened, when
Yes.
they're harassed, when they're, you know, it's like I'll be the one. I'll stand in the front line, and I'll fight for you. I can't promise I can protect you, but I can promise you that if you're going to get shot, I probably am too.
Yeah, I and what she's talking about, like, yeah, the Justice Warriors. You know, you can see it on YouTube. You can find some of it on Spotify, and I'm not sure
Hmm.
exactly where else it
Apple,
is. Apple, okay. Like if
I
anybody out
heart.
there wants to check out her show, like, you know, it's she when she dives into something, she dives all the way into it, and she puts every bit of Heather into it, and that's what I really admire about you.
I
Seriously.
don't know how to half-ass anything.
Well, and like one of the questions I planned to ask you was, what do you think is the major difference between PI and law enforcement? Because, like, in some aspects, it kind of goes hand in hand trying to solve mysteries and cases.
Yeah.
But, like, you kind of just talked about that without me asking that, because law enforcement doesn't usually take the time to build any type of rapport or relationship with people. So, they're it would appear they're less likely to get the same type and level of communication from these people as you are, because you do invest the time
Right.
to learn.
like
Well, I think the biggest difference is I think that, people are just kind of naturally intimidated when it comes to law enforcement, especially if they are on the wrong side of the law, if they're doing something, but I've investigated I investigated a murder case in Murfreesboro years ago. And it required me going into some trap houses, talking to some drug dealers, so on and so forth. And I just walk, I'd knock on the door, and of course, at first they're all weirded out by it and
Who
whatever.
the
But
hell are
then they
you?
kind of, yeah. But then they see like I'm cool, and they'll be like just sitting there smoking a blunt, and like, here, you want to hit off this? No, 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 I don't want to hit, but you do what you do. Like, I'm not
I'm
here. I
not a
don't care
cop.
about your drugs. I'm not a cop. I'm not a drug strike force. I'm not gonna run and tell the cops, hey, you got weed, Um, so once they kind of see that I'm not after them, like I don't, like once they figure that out, then it's like,
You've got
so that's
information.
probably the biggest thing. Yeah, like they're more likely to talk to me than they would law enforcement.
Perfectly
And
understandable.
I kind of just, I didn't mean for it to be this way, and I didn't know it was going to be this way, but I really kind of ended up on the opposite end of the spectrum. Um, and it's sometimes it can be a dangerous place to be because I'm pissing everybody off.
Right. If
It's
you
like,
needed help,
And you
the
don't
cops
have
are
any
probably mad
jurisdiction.
at you. And
yeah, it's like I'm pissing the cops off and I'm pissing the criminals off. So
And some of the citizens, and you don't have any jurisdiction whatsoever. Like,
right,
I mean,
right.
like legally,
Just opinionated armchair detectives
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
that feel that I'm wrong and want to take it upon themselves to and I'm all about back in the blue when the blue is on the up and up.
right.
When they're doing their job.
um I've had to have that talk with my own son. It's like, because he knows my house was raided. He knows, and so sometimes he can get this kind of attitude about law enforcement, and I'm like, and I'll have to tell him, like, no, like, we don't hate law enforcement. We love law enforcement. We back law enforcement when they're doing the right thing. But, you just can't assume. And this is one thing my mentor told me from the very beginning. And, before I witnessed it firsthand, I didn't really, I had to learn it for myself. I didn't take it to heart. But she told me in the very beginning, she said, don't trust everybody that has a badge. Just because they have a badge doesn't mean that they're trustworthy, doesn't mean that they're trying to help you, doesn't mean that they're they're on the right side,
Right.
And unfortunately, I did have to learn that for myself, and it's been a hard lesson.
It's hard to give people the benefit of the doubt too. Like, because you don't want to not trust somebody until they give you a reason not to.
Right,
But you don't want to go in fully trusting, and it backfire on you as well.
right.
So,
So, I went from thinking, when I first started working as a PI, I was I felt like, there's most law enforcement are good. There's just a few rotten apples in there. There's just a few bad, and it's gone the other direction, and you can thank Dyer County for that. Now I'm like, mm, there's a lot of bad and there's a few good in there.
Dyer County is a
So,
special place. They call it Little Chicago. It is the
right.
most dangerous city. Dyersburg is the
Mhm.
most dangerous city to live in the United States. I mean, not the United States, but
In the state
in
of
the state of
Tennessee.
Tennessee.
In Tennessee. Well, I mean, it's up there with my son just ran out here to get some money.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, anyways, what was I saying? Help me out here.
Yeah,
We were
Dyers.
talking about Dyersburg being the most dangerous place in
Oh yeah.
Tennessee.
So it's up there. It's up there with like Jackson and Memphis. And it's like um for a town that small,
Yeah.
to have, to be up there with towns like Jackson and Memphis, it says something.
The
And I believe, my thought on that is that where there's problems with corruption, where there's problems with law enforcement being, involved or turning a blind eye or, whatever, that's where you're going to see higher crime rates.
true story, like doesn't have anything to do, I guess, with this, but me and a coworker were at a customer in Memphis, and the guy was talking about getting out of Memphis. Like he lived in Memphis, and he wanted to get his children out of Memphis, and he wanted to move them somewhere else. And my coworker was like, "Man, you come to Dyersburg, man. It's a pretty good town, And the guy just looked at him like he had three heads. He was like, "Man," he said, "and if I get killed in Shelby County, somebody's going to get arrested for it tomorrow. Like nobody ever gets arrested for anything."
But so many missing
Dyersburg.
people cases that
Yeah.
just go unsolved in Dyersburg, or
Right.
murder cases. They do find the body and just nothing ever gets done.
So that's the general consensus of people that live in Memphis about Dyersburg.
Well, and I think that one very telling fact that I think speaks volumes is how hesitant Dyer County seems to be to get other jurisdictions involved, higher jurisdictions,
Yeah,
such
keeping
as the
TBI.
TBI. Right. Like with the Swift case, when I first got involved, I contacted the TBI. When I get involved in a case like that, when I get involved in a murder case, especially if it's unsolved, if it's still an open investigation, even though the Karen Swift case was, for all intents and purposes, it was cold as ice. It was not going anywhere. We hadn't really heard anything about it. It hadn't really been in the news or anything for years. But being that it was still considered an open investigation, as I always do, I was, trying to reach out to the jurisdictional agency, because I wanted to open that line of communication so that, any information I'm getting, they're going to be getting, pretty much in real time. And so I reached out to TBI. TBI said, that's not our case, so they referred me back to Dyer County. And the agent over at TBI that connected me with Dyer County, said, well, they're going to call you, today or tomorrow. And I think it was like a week passed by. I hadn't heard anything. So finally I reached out to Dyer County, and the chief investigator at the time on the case was Glenn Cook. And my first conversation with Glenn, my assistant was on the phone with me. We were on three-way. She was listening. And he flat out told me, because at that point, it was a couple weeks in, I had already talked to a few people, and I was already getting information. And I told him some of the information I was getting, and he flat out told me, unless you get a confession from David Swift, I'm not interested in anything, any of your information. I'm not interested in it.
wow.
So like they from the get go, that was the only
From the
person they were going to
get-go.
look at.
Wow.
Yep,
That's
straight out the
crazy.
gate. Straight out the gate, they did not want any information at all that pointed in any other direction than David Swift.
I mean, what if David Swift was
And
innocent though? Like what if it was somebody else?
well, they had already made up their mind, and that's all they were interested. That's all they were pursuing. And I think that's another thing that's very telling. That if you watch the trial, and I just about hit the floor when they said this, but the TBI agent that testified, that was running the prints that were on Karen Swift's vehicle, she testified that the only prints that she was sent to compare those to was David Swift's.
So it didn't matter about any other fingerprints on there. They were only looking for one set.
If they weren't David's, they weren't interested.
So if I had my fingerprints on that, I wouldn't even have to have anything to worry about because they weren't checking for
Nope.
my prints. That's crazy.
Nope.
Okay.
But I'll tell you what, somebody's prints that they would have recently gotten.
Yours?
So if they wanted to send,
No, who just got
if they wanted to send
indicted?
them, yep, somebody just got indicted. They just got
Just got
those fingerprints.
fingerprinted.
So
for
they could send them to TBI for comparison.
Oh, okay.
But I don't think they would be his, though, to be honest.
No, but
I don't.
it very much seems like he has something to something important invested in all this.
Y'all know something I don't know. I mean, I'm not asking anybody to drop any names. I can do my own.
Well, I
It's
mean,
the one that was
it's
going around
public
threatening
information.
everybody.
So yeah,
Oh,
Daryl Sells just got indicted for
Mac
threatening
Dingaling.
one of the witnesses.
McDingling.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I don't know
So.
him. I don't know him. I'm just. I know he owns, a McDonald's franchise. So
Yeah, and we sold a Doberman to his son.
Yeah, his son was
But just
nice.
even though I don't think that his fingerprints would be on the vehicle. But just for shits and grins, you got the prints, just send them on over.
Yeah.
Just send them on over.
Why not?
Yeah, might as well cover your bases. So,
one of the things that I was kind of wondering about, and I don't know if you could tell this or not, but in your witness episodes where they were getting threatened, when Kevin was talking, he was saying he's seen someone. Does anybody actually have an idea? No, you don't have to drop a name of who
he
he's
said
seen.
what?
That he's seen someone at her vehicle when they were getting ready to go hunting.
Oh, yeah. So here's the thing. Kevin Butler called Dyer County Sheriff's Office the very next, that day after, it wasn't even the next day. It was that day when him and his son were coming back from hunting. And he saw, he had seen, him and his son had seen the guy, and his son, Cade, ended up testifying in the trial about this. And of course, the prosecution tried their damnedest to, discredit him, and they even bringing up things that they shouldn't even brought up, completely irrelevant
Just a
charges
character
from the past and
defamation.
whatnot. Yeah, just trying to make him look bad. But I felt so bad for him. I really did. He was sitting there in that witness box and just shaking his leg, and they had to tell him to stop because he was tapping his foot like so loud. He was so nervous. Because he was terrified. He even got threatened. He was threatened before, and I know I told you a little bit about that before we started recording, but he was so scared to testify that he was dodging the summons. And but yeah, they called the sheriff's department, Kevin called the sheriff's department that day when they to let them know, once they realized that something bad had happened, when they saw all the cops and everything around her vehicle when they're on their way back from hunting. They called the sheriff's department, and Kevin told them that he had seen somebody. And then he also ended up giving a report later on. He says that Box and some TBI agents came to his house, and he gave the report and he told them exactly what he saw. Well, when he contacted me, because I didn't know anything about him, and he was the one that reached out to me, and it was the day of David Swift's arraignment that he reached out to me on Facebook and asked me if I could meet him and told me he had some information. And I met him and one of his kids. It wasn't Cade, it was another one of his kids, in a grocery store parking lot, and sat there and took his statement. And then after the fact, I told him, I said, I want you to give Danny Goodman this statement. And I think I've published the conversation where I called Danny Goodman with Kevin on the line. We were on three-way, and I had Kevin tell him what he told me. And I asked Danny, I said, had you heard anything about this? And he said, no. And I said, so it's not in the file. And he said, well, I can't remember how many pages he said the file was or whatever, but he said, I may have missed it. Well, no, it wasn't in the file. I know that for a fact at this point, because, there are several things that, when they were preparing for David Swift's trial that, I specifically asked, is, did this come in discovery? Did you get this?
That's,
Was this in discovery?
that's when he said there was 35,000 pages in that file. I may have missed
Right.
something. Okay.
It
Yeah.
wasn't in there. There's so much missing from that file. We've got the audio of the anonymous call that we know who it sounds like.
Right.
That, called Dyer County Sheriff's Office trying to lead them to her body. Well, I know that call was made on November 10th of 2011. The reason we know that it was made on that date is simply because it was in the handwritten notes from dispatch, but the reports, basically any report, anything that a witness came forward with, or, any calls, anything that would have led away from David Swift did not make it into that file.
That's crazy.
And another thing that I find interesting is,
Oh, Lord.
like, the TBI was supposed to have come and got a statement from
So there
Kevin,
should
but
have
then
been
whenever
a
you
report.
come into it years down the road, they never had anything to do with that case. Go back to Dyer County. So, like, what happened to those reports?
Well, they said that they were a part of when she was a missing person, they were part of that. And then when her body was found, Dyer County took the case back.
Okay.
And so TBI was involved in the missing person case, not the murder investigation.
Trial. Okay.
Right.
I was just trying to put those connections together. I was like, what happened to those reports?
But yeah, so all of the reports from Kevin Butler, those were gone. The only remnants of him in that file were handwritten notes from dispatch about the day that he called. And same with the anonymous call, that sounds like,
Yeah.
and many people agree, sounds like Daryl Sells. So, and then the CAD information being missing from that call, which it's like so convenient. Like, there's just so many convenient things. Like, so there, when I reached out to Danny Goodman and here I go pissing everybody off, because when I did that, I actually upset the defense because I was giving Danny a heads up about this call. But I was so fired up about this call when I got my hands on that call, and when they sent it to me, it was like, hey, do you recognize this voice? And they had no idea that it was Daryl Sells. They had never heard. I mean, I guess I don't know if they had listened to any of my audios at that point, but they didn't know. They didn't know that.
Yeah.
And I listened to it, and I was not expecting it to be Daryl. Honest to God, I thought it was going to end up being Mark Morgan.
I don't know who that is either.
That's what I was expecting. I was expecting to hear Mark Morgan, because Mark Morgan claimed to have found her body before anybody else, and said that he didn't report it because he didn't want it getting put on him. But he says he started watching the area to see who came back. Mm-hmm.
Back in the day,
that's what he said.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Back in the day, I mean, like, when they found that body, my neighbor was the Robertson guy, and he was with a Slaughter guy. They were good friends, and they were out there, and they told us, like, they come back to to John's house, and told us that they had stumbled across the body and the ones that turned it in. But I don't know if that was true or not. I just, you know how things get started. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's what we had heard.
I don't know, but I do know this. Well, I don't want to be all over the place with this, but
okay.
But I do know that one of the guys that found her body There was two of them. That there was two, and one of them, I just recently found out that one of my witnesses and I haven't been able to talk to Ricky Sipes in quite some time. He's homeless, and I've heard he's hiding. Um, and I also heard, and I don't know whether this is true or not, but I also heard that they beat the hell out of him after they found out that he talked to me.
I don't know who that is either. Ricky Sipes, but it's okay.
Well, Ricky was staying with one of the guys that found her body.
Oh, okay, I gotcha.
At the time that she was found, he was staying with her, or with him. I mean, I'm sorry. And when I talked to him, he was staying with Tim and Laura Burnett. And Tim and Laura knew, because when the Dyer County Sheriff's Office, when mainly Rick Gregory and Glenn Cook, when they started going around, so on the Dateline episode, they're talking about how, like, when they started, Danny says, when they started going around and asking people about what they said to me and whatever, that there was this common thread, this kind of reoccurring thing where they're all saying, well, they didn't say that. Okay. Which, I told Danny, I said, I'm not lying. Like, he knows I'm not lying. He knows, period. But, they were going around, Rick Gregory and Glenn Cook were telling the witnesses to change their statements. And several of the witnesses told me this. And I've got audios of witnesses telling me that, Rick Gregory and Glenn Cook showed up and, said, did you really say that? Or did Heather tell you to say that? And blah, 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 blah,
So who are those guys? Are they
the lead investigator?
Detectives.
Okay, I see.
Lead investigator and detective.
You know more people here than I do.
Right. Unfortunately, I don't know. So, well, I mean, I'm some of the people I'm glad I met. Like, I made some really great relationships. So, I won't kind of retract what I just said, yeah, I mean, some of the closest people to me in the world now are from Dyer County, but when they came and raided my house, one of the things that they took was my hard file. And that hard file had affidavits in it from witnesses, specifically one of them being the babysitter.
1 second. Did you get that? Did you get that back? And was it deleted?
No.
Okay.
No, I never got my hard file back. So they took my original copies. And so they've got the original affidavits of the witnesses that literally said in the affidavit, the babysitter says that Detective Glenn Cook and Rick Gregory told her to change her statement.
I apologize about that noise. That was me.
And so when they raided my house, I confronted Rick Gregory. He was sitting at my table. And as a matter of fact, the detective, the homicide detective from my county that came with them, he was standing, him and I became friends afterwards. And he was standing in my kitchen, and Rick Gregory was sitting at my kitchen table, and he was keeping an eye on me because I wasn't allowed to move while they were, I had to sit at my table while they were searching my house.
I'm sorry, you go ahead. Go ahead.
And I, me being the smart ass that I am, I looked at Rick and I said, well, I guess I should probably tell you what you're going to find since you're raiding my house. And he said, what are we going to find? I said, well, you're going to find affidavits from witnesses saying that you told them to change their fucking statements.
Oh, wow. Feisty.
And yeah, he kind of chuckled. And so the investigator, the homicide detective from my county, he was standing near my kitchen sink when I said that, and he spun around and like looked at me. And we talked later. He said, "Yeah, that perked my ears up." I said, "Yeah." I said, I'm glad you heard that." Um and so Rick Gregory chuckles when I said that. He chuckled and he said, "My integrity means everything to me." And I said, "The fuck it does."
When they take possession of one of your personal items, like your hard drive,
Uh-huh.
or your hard files,
Mhm.
on what grounds can they keep them on? For
Well,
like,
they're not supposed to. They're supposed to return things once. I mean, there was so many things wrong with whole, that whole thing. That whole thing. Like, first of all, to this day, I still haven't seen the affidavit that's tied to that search warrant. Um, the affidavit was under seal, and I would bet money that if I got my hands on that affidavit, they probably don't want me to, especially at this point, with
right.
Daryl Sells being indicted and whatnot. And now that it's come out that Chastity Brandon was paid $100,000, and that's just what we know about. I have a feeling it's more than that. But anyways,
That name sounds
um,
familiar, but I'm not
she
sure.
she was my intern. That she came to me as a witness, and she was adamant that Daryl Sells was involved, that he was covering for Dina, yada yada yada. Like, she was adamant about that. And then all of a sudden she leaves my company. She because so she came to me as a witness, and then we got kind of close, like I do with everybody. And because I'm just like I said, I care about people and I get close to them. And she was a witness, and we started talking, and next thing I know, I mean, we're friends, and she's coming to my house, we're hanging out, we went out for New Year's Eve. Her and her husband, at the time, they're separated now, but her and her husband came and went out with me and my boyfriend at the time for New Year's Eve. She had a key to my front door. We were friends. And next thing I know, she's leaving my company and starting a whole Facebook page, just making accusations at me and all kinds of stuff. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? Well, then I find out. And the reason I found this out was because she left her husband. Her husband contacted me and ends up sending me a copy of a check. Well, Daryl Sells was paying her.
Oh, wow.
Why? I mean, why would you want to
Yeah,
give your money away for nothing if
he,
you don't have anything to
yeah.
hide? Oh,
Well, I mean, her job was to discredit me publicly, to just basically just to harass the shit out of me. And she did for a long time. In fact, she might still be trying to. I just don't pay attention to her anymore. But yeah, they created this page and they made all sorts of crazy accusations towards me. I was involved in a murder in North Carolina. I was a porn star, all sorts of stuff.
you got links.
Do I got links?
That was a joke.
What?
To the porn
Oh.
star.
Oh. Well, I could probably send you links to the porn star they were saying I was to. I was like, golly, this girl. I was like, could you at least make me a hot porn star? Oh my god.
She's not
But
hot. I don't want the links.
no, she was. Oh god. I'm like, no. At least, I mean, could you make me like Jenna Jameson or something? I mean, why do I
Somebody.
gotta be this chick?
Right.
But yeah, anyways, so all these crazy accusations and just trying to discredit me, trying to get people to I guess turn against me or what, I don't know.
And once again,
And
like he was saying, like, it's a whole lot of effort to go through if you don't have anything to do with this or don't have anyone you're invested in that's involved with this. Like,
right,
why go
right,
through all this?
right. I mean, I get it. The man's got more money than God. I mean, what he paid her was chump change. I mean, it wasn't nothing to him. But still, I mean, I could think of a whole lot better causes to put $100,000 towards than,
Right. Yeah.
you
And
know,
especially if you've got nothing to worry about. Like,
right. Exactly. And I mean, I'm just like, for me, it was always like, just investigate him, just do your due diligence.
yeah, I noticed
And
on the indictment that he just had, there was several people. It was like when the DA left the comment that he's never been a person of interest, he's still not a person of interest. Like,
okay, why?
why not? Like, you had
He
people
should have
giving
been.
you stuff, and you're not following up on it. Why is he
Right.
just off the person of interest list?
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, well, so when I got the indictment on him, when I went before the grand jury and got the indictment on him for cyber stalking, which ended up getting dropped, which was another, like, I was just starting to get into all the problems with the search warrant. Now we're getting into the problems with that. But the search warrant. So what I was getting at with the affidavit was that I would bet money if I got my hands on that affidavit that I would bet that Sells was behind that, and Chastity probably was too. And I bet that she probably testified to the grand jury, and they didn't know at that time. And I don't know if it would have made a difference or not. But when Danny Goodman took whatever evidence that he took, actually, I'm sorry, they didn't even go to a grand jury on that. I don't think. I think no, because there wasn't an indictment. I'm getting all kinds of messed up here, but he Danny Goodman signed off on it, and then they took it to a magistrate. But I would almost bet money that the evidence that was presented to Danny that caused him to sign off on this bullshit search warrant probably came from Chastity Brandon and Daryl Sells. And Danny didn't know at that time that Chastity was paid $100,000 by Daryl Sells.
That's a lot of money. Is that hearsay or is that proof?
That is okay. I'm going to tell you what proof I have of that.
Okay.
I do have copies of 4 different checks. They don't equal $100,000, but where I get the $100,000 number from is Chastity Brandon is still drawing out a divorce. She left her husband like 4 years ago or something, and she still hasn't given him the divorce. And the reason for that is that she doesn't want to hand over her financial records. And so her husband's attorney served Daryl Sells a subpoena. And from what I understand, and this came from the attorney. This was told to me by the attorney. From what I understand, at first Sells was trying to deny even like knowing her. And then he admitted he gave her some money, and then his attorney ended up turning over some paperwork. And from what I've been told, he's admitted to $100,000.
That's great.
And I believe he's actually even provided like some sort of tax documentation or financial documentation of it.
If I get those adult film links, I'm gonna get $100,000 off of you too.
Off of me?
Yeah.
Good luck with that. I always say, I'm like the most dangerous type of person because I really don't have anything to lose.
No. I was just joking. Don't be like,
no,
pointing
I
the
know,
gun at
but
me.
it's like, yeah, no, if somebody wants to sue me, I mean, all I got to give them is my $100,000 in student loan debt.
That's what I'm talking about. Like, if
they can have it.
If I ever get sued, I'm like, man, you want my bankruptcy? Because I'm about to file it.
Yeah. Here you go. Here's my debt. Have fun.
Bleeding that turnip.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that I was discussing with Billy earlier. I was like, she's not getting any money off of investigating this, so it's not like she has something to gain by proving a point, because you were doing this for free.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if somebody had hired you or if you come in like just
No,
pro
and that's
bono.
so. I'm about to tell you exactly how much I made on that case. You ready?
I'm ready.
$100.
$100.
I got $100 donation from Mr. Jim Horner. Hmm.
Oh, Jim Horner's a good
And
dude.
Yeah,
he is. He just passed
yeah, I was
away,
supposed to say he just passed away recently.
Okay, I didn't
which
know
is the
that.
only reason why I'm putting his name out there like that now, because
Right.
I wouldn't have said that before. But yeah, he sent it anonymously, but I knew it was from him, and I called him and asked him, and he admitted it, and I told him thank you. But he sent me a nice little letter, which was part of what got confiscated, so I don't even have it any longer. They took it with my hard file. But he wrote me a nice little letter thanking me for my hard work and thanking me for, trying to help clean up Dyer County, and sent $100 bill. And yeah, that's how much I made in that case, $100.
And you worked on it for a long time. How much time did you put
Very
in
long
on it?
time. I couldn't even. I mean, it's been 7 years, but
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I couldn't even. There's all of the hours. I mean, hundreds of hours on the phone talking to witnesses, driving there, knocking on doors. I've put more time and energy into that case than I've ever put into any one case in my whole life. In my 8 years of doing PI work.
I was gonna say, like, as sad as the Holly Bobo case was, it was resolved fairly quickly in comparison. I mean, it's this Karen Swift case is really drug out longer than any other case that I can remember. Like that.
Yeah, yeah. And a lot of what I did in Holly's case, I did go there a couple times, but mostly it was, behind my computer and whatnot. And this was a lot more like footwork,
Yeah,
hands
feet on the
on.
ground. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, actual PI work as opposed to, I was more of, like I said earlier, armchair detective. I was more of an armchair detective in Holly's case. It was before I was licensed, and
Dipping your toes in.
We had
just
gotten a
kind of,
packet
yeah.
in around that time too. Me and Courtney were talking about that earlier, but we had checked into seeing what it would take to be a private investigator for some reason or the other. It may have been Holly Bobo, it could have been Karen Swift. I really don't know, but we were probably bored. But we sent in and got some sort of packet that would explain everything that you need to do to get obtain your license so you could
Yeah.
legally do it. And
When was that? Because it's different
Well,
now.
it was when we
It's
were living on Patty Drive still. So we were in Newbern. We left there in 2012. So
2010,
so
2011, something
it's
like that.
now. It's so much easier now. It was harder when I started because you had to find a company that would sponsor you, which was the hardest part of it, really, because
Nobody does it.
nobody wants to. Yeah. And but I got lucky because they they give credit for like education and um professional experience, and since I've been a paralegal and done legal work already and had the um legal education and criminal justice background, stuff like that, since I had all that, they let me start my own company instead of have to be sponsored by another company. But it was hard. It was harder back then to get your foot in the door than it is now. Now you don't even have to be sponsored by, you can just get a PI license and you don't even have to have a company now, which I feel like I don't really like that, because I just kind of, now basically anybody that can pass a background check and pass the test can get a PI license. But
Yeah, just anybody can call themselves a private investigator.
yeah, I mean, you got to be able to pass the test. You got to know the statutes. You got to have a clean criminal background. But as long as you can get past that stuff, then you're fine.
I wish I had time to do something like that. Like, and that like that would be a very personal question, but like I was kind of curious, like if when Courtney told me you were doing it at no charge at all, I was like, she was putting in so many hours on it. Like, how is she earning a living at the same time?
I wasn't. I mean, I was doing. I was hurting. I'm still hurting. I've really put. I don't look at this as a job. I mean, sometimes it feels very much like a job, but um, I see it as a purpose, as an assignment.
It's a passion.
And actually, Karen's Karen Swift's case, I feel like is the biggest assignment of my life. Because, I didn't realize when I got involved with Karen's case that it wasn't just about Karen's case.
Right.
It turned into something much, much bigger. And that was helping Dyer County expose the corruption,
Yeah.
expose what's really going on there. So I think that Karen's case was the catalyst. And I do believe that God has a purpose here. I don't know, everybody's got their part in it. And I don't necessarily think that I'm the one, I'm the David that's going to throw the stone and take down Goliath. I don't necessarily think that it's me alone that's going to expose and take it all down. But I think that I definitely am, I'm part of it.
One of the lights shining to show what's going on for people to start paying more attention.
Right. And I think that the reason that God uses people like me is to show people that, anybody can do it. Like when you have a God assignment, when God convicts your heart to move and to do something and you're obedient, it doesn't matter. Your past doesn't matter. Your education level doesn't matter. Like whatever, if God chose you, then he chose you for a reason. You have something to offer.
Yeah.
And I feel like, it's the reason that God uses people like myself that, some people that want to snub their noses and, want to say, oh, they say what they say, whatever. You got to look at, even in the Bible, like the people that God chose to use, were some of the most
sinful. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they were some characters.
They were.
And right. So, people that say, oh, well, I can't do anything. Like I'm nobody. Like I can't do anything. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. If God's put it on your heart and, then you got to be obedient. You got to do it. And it's, and that's really all that matters. And I feel like, so back to the question about money, it's like, as long as I'm being obedient, I know I'll be taken care of. I'm not trying to get rich. I don't need to get rich. I don't really care about material things.
You are a Cohen.
I'm a what?
You're a
I'm
Cohen.
a Cohen. Yeah. I'm a trust baby.
That's right.
But
Uncle Leonard's trust
fund. God, I wish I was. I'm like, no, I don't. No, I really don't, because I feel like money is,
I hate it.
I don't know. I mean, you got to have it to live. I just want
enough to be comfortable.
Exactly. I just want to be able to pay my bills and put food on my table and maybe take a vacation from time to time and maybe be able to afford a massage every once in a while because this shit's stressful. But, but yeah, money's not. And so it's like, okay, it's my purpose. It's my assignment. And I know as long as I'm being obedient that God will at least provide what I need.
Yeah.
And I don't need more than that. All I need is what I need to survive, and I'm good.
That's great to have faith and be able to operate on that, man. So like, big up to you. But I've always felt like the more money I've had, the more. I mean, like, you ever listen to
more money, more problems?
Yeah, man. And it's crazy because I didn't want to say that because of the Biggie album and all of the stuff that's coming out. And I've been recently just like researching those
Diddy
lyrics
right now.
Right.
Yeah. Have you I don't know how many times I listened to Life After Death, but there's a couple of songs on that album. And I'm ADD, by the way, so I just jump all over the place. But there's a couple of songs on that album that like mention child trafficking. You know,
Yeah.
and I never paid attention to it. You know, and like now that P Diddy's, you know, up on his charges and stuff, like I'm starting to actually pay more attention to that. But like you, I noticed you had an episode on YouTube, but it wouldn't play. It played about 18 seconds of it, and then it went to the next episode for whatever reason, but it had something to do with human trafficking. You got a little bit of a background on it too?
Yeah. And again, I feel like I realize more and more as I get older how every little thing in my life was relevant to where I'm at now. Like everything was God training. So yeah, I mean, I came up in a volatile, in a volatile atmosphere and young age and in the system and I was running away and all that stuff. Well, so when I was 17, I started dancing. And I mean, here I was underage and with a fake ID and working in adult entertainment. And I guess, let's see, 90 was 95, I think, not 96 maybe. A guy came into the club that I was working at and promised me the moon. He's going to make me a star. And he was a famous photographer. And he bought me a ticket to California. And I went out to Cali. And I mean, just to give you an idea of how naive I was, I loved the song by Sheryl Crow, All I Wanna Do Is Have Some Fun. And in that, a line in that song says, at the bar that faces the giant car wash.
She talks about me in that song too.
Does she now?
Yeah.
Oh, Bill or Billy or Mac or Buddy.
That's right. Yeah, she's from Kennett, Missouri. She's just like 30 minutes away. It's like we grew up pretty good friends, and that was definitely a reference to me.
And he's definitely full of shit.
Okay.
But okay.
All right. Well,
I hear you're buying.
There you go.
Okay, back to your story. I'm sorry.
So he picks me up at the airport, and one of the first things I said to him, I wanted to know where the bar that faces the giant car wash was. Where's the bar that faces the giant car wash?
Oh, Lord.
Oh, wow.
And he's like, there's probably about a dozen of them. I mean, like, oh, I thought
so
that
there's
was a real
nothing
place.
special.
Yeah, but that's how naive I was. I was so young and naive, and so he takes me to one of the first places he takes me to was Fantasy Island. I'm gonna be dropping names. I don't know if I should do all that, but
don't get yourself in trouble or anything.
He takes. Oh, I don't know that it matters. Honestly, I think a lot of this is probably like common knowledge at this point, but. And it's funny, but well, anyway, he takes me to Fantasy Island and introduces me to Dennis, the owner. I believe he's the owner, maybe he's the manager. I don't know. But anyways, he introduces me to him. Well, what I didn't know was that they were actually trying to traffic me to Brunei.
Wow.
And the Sultan of Brunei, and his son, like they were there, they came, they were basically this photographer, and I don't know how many people were involved in it, but there was a group of people that were scouting. So when that photographer came in the club and promised me the moon and he was going to make me famous, and he really was a big deal. Like he shot Pamela Anderson, Anna Nicole Smith, the Barbie twins, what was Jenny McCarthy. He was, and
did he know you were 17?
Well, at this time I wasn't. Okay, I was older at this point. I was 18, but he So he takes me to Dennis. I've now been officially chosen to be shipped over to Brunei.
Where is that?
Um,
For those that don't know, like me.
I I don't even know.
Okay,
I
okay.
I don't even know. I still don't know. But but I mean, I think most people at this point have heard about the Sultan of Brunei. He was one of the richest men in the world, if not the richest man in the world.
Thinking
And
Aladdin.
yeah, yeah. So long story short, or longer, I don't know. But they chose me to be shipped over to Brunei. The way it was explained to me was that they were going to, what is it with $100,000? But anyway,
It's a good
they
number.
were going to pay me, yeah, they were going to pay me $100,000. It was going to be deposited into my account here in the States, and it would be here for me when I got back. I would be there for 3 months. I was not going to be allowed to make any contact with my family back in the States while I was there. So I was supposed to let my whole family know, hey, you're not going to hear from me for a while, but don't worry, I'll be back. Whatever. And I was told that I would not have to do anything I didn't want to do. I wouldn't have to sleep with anybody or anything like that. That basically I was being sent there to attend parties and be the date, be a date of the Sultan and his guys, whatever. Well,
So some arm
w-
candy,
yeah,
pretty
arm
much.
candy, basically, yeah. And there were other girls. The club I ended up working at, there were other girls that were going, and I wasn't the only one. And I didn't end up going. And my grandma, bless her heart, I had called her and asked her to send me my birth certificate and everything because I had to get a passport. And she overnighted it, and I mean, I was ready. This was happening. And then the owner of the club that I was working at, I was working at a couple different clubs, but the owner of one of the other clubs I was working at, he pulled me aside. He said, "Hey, I need to talk to you." And I said, "Okay." And he said, "Can I pick you up tomorrow? I want to take you somewhere, and I got somebody I want you to meet." Blah blah blah. I said, "Okay, yeah." He picks me up and he takes me to meet Hugh Hefner's personal physician, Mark Sagnar.
Oh wow.
And hmm and I go and sit down with Mark Sagnar, and Mark begs me not to go to Brunei. And he tells me about his friend who ended up going public. Now, when I was talking to Mark Saginaw, she wasn't back yet. She had been gone for more than 3 months. I can't remember how long he said, but they were trying to get the FBI involved, but the FBI couldn't do anything because it was overseas.
Yeah,
It
they didn't
was,
have any jurisdiction.
they didn't have any jurisdiction, so they couldn't do anything. But they were trying to get the FBI involved because nobody had heard from her and she'd been gone longer than she was supposed to been gone and yada yada. Well, his friend that we're talking about, her name's Rebecca Ferrati. Rebecca Ferrati was the redhead on Ace Ventura Pet Detective, that where he's like holding on to the door jamb.
Yeah.
That's her. Well,
I,
she went to Brunei. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Brunei. I was gonna let everybody know just in case they wanted to know. It's across a little sea. It's an island. It's a big island, but it's across a little sea from Vietnam to the north and Singapore to the west. But go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. So Rebecca Ferrati was his friend that was over there that had been gone for too long, and everybody's getting worried and trying to get the FBI involved, and they couldn't get involved. Well, when she ended up coming back, um, she went public with what they did to her over there. And from what I recall, and this has been years ago that I saw, I want to say it was on 2020 or something. It was a big deal. But she talked about how they made her have sex with Doberman pinchers.
Oh wow.
And yeah, so I don't know, but it was pretty from what that's the one thing I remember that stood out in my mind. And I want to say they locked the girls in the rooms. They took, um, I don't know. They didn't, of course, wouldn't let them contact any family. They'd lock them in their rooms.
It wasn't a
And,
vacation as promised, huh? It was like,
no, yeah, it was from Rebecca Ferrati's story that ended up coming out. It was pretty horrible. So I'm really glad I didn't go, but I ended up taking Mark Saganar's words to heart, and I did not go.
good.
Yeah, but so that's my experience with trafficking. I had, of course, being an exotic dancer, I had a lot of friends that got tied, wrapped, caught up in it. I had a well, I don't know if I want to call her a close friend, but somebody I knew for years and years and years that um, it was actually after I became a PI, she reached out to me and wanted my support. And she was in, um, I believe, North Carolina somewhere. And she said that, she'd been pimped by this guy and he got her strung out on heroin and all sorts of stuff, and I guess he killed somebody, and I don't know.
That's
But,
usually how they keep them around, right? They get them addicted to some sort of drug.
oh yeah. She told me all kinds of really awful stuff, and so I'm lucky because I'm lucky that I dodged those bullets.
Right.
I feel like I was close enough. I was close enough to it that and I
It
do
was an
think
eye
that.
opener.
Yeah, and I do think that God has, I mean, I was so
You were
dumb
close.
back then. I was young and I was dumb, and $100,000 sounded freaking fantastic.
Yeah.
18 years old being handed $100,000. I mean,
Especially
it's a
in
big deal,
95. That was probably like a
right?
half a
That was
million.
that was a lot of money back then.
At least
Right.
um, but no, it's like as young and dumb as I was, I still, I've got God to thank for that, because I think, he's just always, even when I was not on the right path, even when I was not living right, he still protected me.
that's what I'm talking about. That's good stuff. All joking aside, that is good stuff.
Yeah. Mhm. Really is. But anyways,
I
I
actually, I really, when we brought it up, because that episode wouldn't play, I just kind of expected it to be another one of your cases that you kind of worked on.
mm-mm.
And it was actually a lot more
Yeah, that was a lot more in
personal
depth.
than expected by that question.
And thank you for sharing. If you need us to edit anything
No,
out, we don't mind.
you're welcome. I actually wrote a book years ago. It was kind of like an introductory book. I've always felt like, and I know this is like with politicians and stuff now, I would never be in politics. I could
No.
never be in politics. But I've kind of lived by this motto that, I want to be transparent. I want people, like it, you know, I don't I don't hide anything.
Well,
And I actually get criticized for that a lot. People are like, "You are too you share too much. You're
no.
too, you know."
They can come back and hang you by that if you try to hide it.
Right.
Like, so it's good to own up to everything that you're guilty of. Like, I
But
mean,
it's like, you're not going to be able to say anything about me
That you
that
haven't
I've
already
not
said.
already said.
exactly,
It's like,
exactly.
when I found out that Chastity was trying to dig dirt on me, I'm like, well, why don't she just come to me? I could save her some time. Shit.
I'll give you all the good
Like,
dirt.
what do you want to know?
Like, I'll sell you some dirt for $100,000.
That's the price. That's the price. What do you want to know? I'll give you the juiciest piece of gossip on me that anybody. I'll talk about myself. Come on now.
When you said everything was like $100,000, immediately my mind went to Austin Powers. When the dude. Well, I don't even remember. Like, I watched the movie when I was a kid. I've never watched it as an adult, but like I do remember this, like him just sticking his finger to his mouth, Dr. Evil, and just saying like, $100,000. And they're like, that's it? And he was like, $1 million. Like some sort of ransom, And that's
Yeah.
that's where my mind went. I told you I'm ADD. I'm just kind of all over the place.
No, that's fine. That's fine. You gotta put some humor in there.
Try to.
So what was your book? Like,
Yeah, is it published?
It was, I published 3 books at this
God.
point, and I'm working on my 4th. They're not long books. I'm very I think I in fact, I feel like I probably, now looking back, and I've gone back and read my books and stuff, it's like, I really probably could have expanded on that some more.
It's
But I
never too
just
late.
kind of, I say what I have to say, and that's it. So, my books are usually right around 100 pages, and that's it.
That's my
I
kind of
say,
book.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
my Cat
But
Williams
people
too,
are like, I read that in 20 minutes. It's
I
like,
bet
cool.
I guarantee Cat Williams read it. He said he read like 5,000 pages a year. I mean, 5,000 books a year or something like that. I can't remember the exact
Yeah.
details, but he's read all your books. How does that make you feel
That's
that
funny.
Cat Williams has read all of your books?
Well, until I make it into one of his jokes, I don't think I can be that honored.
I'll talk to him about it. I'll talk to Cheryl.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I want to joke. I want to joke about something in my book. I don't know, but I wrote Memoirs of a Justice Warrior, and that was just kind of like the introduction. It's just kind of, this is who I am. This is my background. Blah blah blah. It's like the airing all the dirt. You
okay,
know, the airing of the dirt,
the
and
airing of
then
the dirt.
that's what I should have called it. But and then the second one was Swift Injustice,
Okay,
about the Swift case. And then this last one was Framed in the Smokies, about my Gary Sutton case. And then the one I'm working on now is called The Most Dangerous Gang, and it's about corruption.
okay,
And the reason I call it that is because, several people have asked me, because I've worked cases that are gang related, and they'll be like, well, what gang are you most afraid of? Like, don't you get scared? Aren't you scared? And I tell them, like, the gang I'm most afraid of is cops, corrupt cops.
that's saying a lot too.
Um,
Because I just read Hunter S. Thompson's Hell's Angels, and like so, I
mhm,
was kind of expecting that to come out of your mouth because like if they like you, they like you, but if they don't, like of course I don't really know what I'm talking about. This was an old book that was
yeah,
written in the '60s. I'm sure a lot of things have changed, and we don't know what
yeah,
was really true either. But yeah, like that is probably the most organized, fearful group that you could think of as corrupt
right.
cops. I believe. Anyway,
hmm
let me shut up. You keep on talking.
Well, I mean, the reason why is because, and I've seen it in the Swift case. It's like, the way that the legal system can be weaponized. And, it's like when you've got information that they're scared of getting out, or that you're trying to get out, like, one of the most common tactics that I've seen is that they'll try to discredit you by either making you look completely crazy, or by targeting you legally. And some of the witnesses there in Dyer County, you know, they started getting, targeted. Like, as soon as they found out that they were talking to me, then, they're coming after them legally. And I always say, I tell the witnesses, like, don't be low hanging fruit. Like, you got to be careful. You got to keep your nose clean. If you're involved in something illegal, then you're just an easy target,
Yeah,
right.
that's right.
because it's like, um just, I have somebody in mind when I say this, but I'm not going to out them. But it's like, okay, so you want to talk about the corruption, but you have a weed farm.
Right, something like that. Yeah,
And then they find out you're talking about the corruption,
And they
and what
already
are they
know
going to
about that.
do? They're going to come bust you for your weed farm. They knew about the weed farm before, and
That's
it didn't
right.
bother them.
They didn't care about
But
the weed
now
farm
that,
now.
right, but now that
Now they've got
you,
everything they need to bring you down.
That's a really good point,
exactly.
man. Like I've always assumed, like I hung around some hooligans and I loved them to death and I have no regrets. And I was a hooligan too. Like, I mean, I couldn't tell you the amount of times that I've probably barely missed a prison sentence. And that's the God's honest truth. I hung around a lot of drug dealers. I actually, like I've sold some stuff. I've never really been like a drug dealer, but like I've sold some stuff in the past. Like this was, in high school and right after. But like some of the people that ended up getting in trouble, I would get like this whim. It always felt like something was watching after me too. Like I would either change my mind or get the hell out of Dodge or something
Just before
and
something would happen.
And I was like, I had a dude and I had a private investigator, and I think he was a private investigator. He may actually work for the police department, but he actually told me and my roommate, like, we know way more about you than you give us credit for. Like, if I were you, I would calm the fuck down. And like that was like really like a slap in the face, because I was like, I thought I was getting away with everything I was doing, So like it was, they weren't even looking for that situation when they come, to our house. They weren't looking for drugs. They were looking for somebody that was that they thought we were harboring a fugitive, and
Right.
and that person had been in our apartment. We didn't know he was a fugitive, but he wasn't there at that point. But like, yeah, like it's just it's like they wouldn't use that stuff against us until it benefited them to do so. And that, just a long way around the bush, I suppose.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy.
It is, man. It is.
And in Dyer County, it seems to be either everything gets hushed and left alone until people quit talking about it, or the people that are talking about it
Go away.
go away. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hey, even whenever I first started driving, I remember like I would always watch my ass in Dyer County, but as soon as I got over the county line in Obion, because I spent a lot of time, in Obion County, and as soon as I got over there, I was like, I can breathe. I don't, like, and it wasn't that I was ever harassed in Dyersburg. It was just all the stories.
Yeah.
You got to cross your eyes. I mean, you cross your T's and dot your I's in Dyersburg in order to keep everybody off your ass. So it was like one of those things, like always like be extremely cautious in Dyersburg, but like Union City at the time, now you roll through Union City 2 miles an hour over, you're going to get a speeding ticket. But back then it was like, okay, I can quit holding my breath. But yeah, Dyersburg has always been like there's just a different feeling about it. And I don't really
the retaliation there is real.
Yeah,
like it's just, the way that the legal system is weaponized, and it's like, it's just, you've got to stay in good graces with a certain group of people, with certain people. And if you do anything to cross those people, then you might as well kiss your business goodbye. You might as well kiss your possibly your freedom goodbye. Like it's weaponized.
Yeah. We when we bought we bought this house, we live in Lake County now, and I caught a lot of flack from a lot of Dyer County friends. Like, well, why would you move down there? Like, they don't have nothing down there. I'm like, man, I got friends down there. Like, it's I'm not saying this place is perfect either. There's no places in West Tennessee.
I got friends in low.
That's right. They are low places. You can tell she's been.
It's wild, because it's like there's so many people there that I just absolutely love. And I think they love me back. But then there's people there's people there that I am absolutely terrified of. And it's just, I don't know. I could never live there, but
Yeah, there's way too much that goes on that
I
that
don't think I'd make it a day there.
right,
Probably.
like
I would
buy a place
even.
or rent a place and they know you're putting roots down. Probably would
Right.
be a target quickly.
Oh yeah.
So where can
Yeah.
people buy
So
your books, if you don't mind me asking?
they're on Amazon, and
Okay.
I should be putting out the fourth one. I'll be putting out soon. The only thing I'm waiting for, I sent it over to one of my friends. It's a PI, and I asked him if he could just give me some ideas. Is there anything I need to expand on? Is there anything that he thinks that I need to add? So um we've been trying to get records from the Department of Education for almost a year. And this is the first time I'm really talking about this publicly. I let their attorney know last week that we are to the point that we're about to go to the media um, if they don't
You've got me
get our
curious.
records. Yeah, if they don't get these records to us, like pretty damn quick. Like I told them, I mean, I've been pretty harsh with their legal department, over the last month or so. That it really seems like they're hiding something. They're drawing, there's a reason. And they say, well, your request is massive and blah 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 blah. It doesn't take a year. I put the request in last May.
And does this go along with
And
the most dangerous gang stuff?
no,
Okay.
it doesn't.
Is this
Not
Elon
necessarily,
Musk?
but it may be. You're familiar with all the talk about the vouchers.
Yes.
Okay, it may be tied to that.
Okay.
That Elon Musk can help you out?
Elon Musk.
If
Um. Well, I don't know. I sure would love it if Elon, if you're listening to this
he'll listen.
and you want to, yeah, Elon. We know that this is number one on Apple. It will be
It will be
soon.
soon. Yeah.
When you hear this, give me a call, Heather Cohen. Google me.
Got all the dirt. Yeah, he's looking
Yeah.
into the Department of Education, but I think it's more on a federal level, huh?
We'll put it on
Yeah.
YouTube and tag Trump in it, or go over there on their X. He'll have
I've
to look.
actually I put a live Facebook live video out trying to get Trump to get a hold of me.
That would be hilarious.
I
if
need
he
your
did.
help, Trump. I need your help with more than one of my cases.
If you don't get back with me, I'm never voting for you again.
Even though you can't.
On that note, you know what's so funny? Did you see how recently the guy that I can't remember, Matt something, accused me of being liberal twice? He accused me
No,
of being liberal twice
I haven't
because
seen
I was
that.
defending the Constitution, and it was over the stuff about the officers being arrested for excessive force and whatnot,
And
and
4
Jackson
points area.
Hopper's
Yeah.
arrest. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this guy called me a liberal twice. And I was like, it's funny that you would assume I'm a liberal just because I'm defending the Constitution. But for your information, I'm a Trump supporter. So, and people don't understand. This is not, I hate how people have to make everything about politics. It's like,
It's
this isn't
always
about conservative or liberal. This is about truth.
That's exactly right. And there's only two armies. There's a right and the left, and it's always so black and white. And I've got so many
Right.
views. I remember the first time when Trump was in office, there was rumor that he was talking about starting to drill Yellowstone. And
Or under Utah. No, it was one of the national parks in Utah.
okay. It's where the Old Faithful is. What is the name of that park? But
That is Yellowstone.
is it Yellowstone?
Mm-hmm.
I don't.
Yellowstone.
But regardless, man,
Yellowstone Park.
I was like, let's not do that. Let's find somewhere else. I didn't. I mean, like, not that my voice mattered, but like, I don't agree with everything that anybody says. I think if you do, you'll find yourself just being like a tool. That's just my personal opinion.
Right.
But like, stay true to yourself. When it comes to all that
Right.
stuff, like, there's there's definitely things that everybody does. Like nobody's all bad. It's all yin and yang. You know, like it's like
Nobody's all bad, nobody's all good.
that's exactly right.
It's like, don't align yourself 100% with anybody,
Because then you
any
think
human.
you have no thinking for yourself. Then
You'll just become an echo
Exactly.
chamber. You know, like you'll just start repeating stuff and not even thinking about it. And we're seeing
Right.
it today.
It's like the people that say, I back the blue. I back the blue. Well, so do I. But when the blue does something out of the scope of their duties and, that's not ethical, like I'm not going to back them on that.
Yeah, and not all blue has to pay for that. You know, I mean, like there's. I mean, that's my opinion, but like I'm not gonna start hating every cop because one cop does something bad, and I'm not gonna start.
Right.
Like I mean,
exactly.
But we see this
cancel culture.
Yeah, but the NSAID got shut down or whatever for.
But you know who you can't cancel though is God.
That's right, you can't. But like we hear this echo chamber from a lot of people. Yeah, people will try. Yeah, absolutely. But the echo chamber, just like from the left, it seems like there's so many people that don't even want to talk about what's being found. You know, they just want to talk about the fact that Elon Musk wasn't voted in. There's a lot of people that weren't voted in that have done some really good, in every single administration.
They're appointed.
So anyway, that's that. I try not to get too political either.
Yeah. No, it's when we start making it about politics, then something gets lost. Something very, very important. The truth gets lost. The truth gets lost in the politics of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because all politics are agendas. So truth doesn't usually matter there.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yep. That's absolutely right.
Well, Miss Heather, it's been about an hour and a half. Do you want to call it?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. I think that last statement is a great note to end it on.
I was kind of thinking the same thing, but listen, man, we would love to have you back anytime you want. We can talk about anything you want to. Like, it can just be BSing because that's part of our show. It's just BSing. So, like, if you ever want to come back, just let us know. And if you don't let us know soon enough, we will probably just start messaging you until you block us.
Whatever.
That's how we do things over here.
You're funny.
We get desperate.
No, it's been great. It was a good conversation, and now my son is back and the birthday party's over, so it was great timing. And yep.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. And like I said, man, we very much enjoyed the conversation as well, and can't wait till the next time. Yes, sir. Thank you so much. You guys have a great day, and send me the link when you get it up. Absolutely. All right. Thank you. Bye. Bye.